episode of the Marketing, Branding, and Getting the Sale show. And we are here today talking about getting better online conversions. And we have a special guest with us this morning. You may have seen him here before as Stuart Westhead. So let's quickly do some introductions, and we will dive into the topic. Stuart, would you like to go first and just let people know who you are and what you do, etc.?
Yes, because I should have put Stuart Westhead SEO in my little box there, and I didn't. I've been doing SEO and Google Ads now for started off in 2002, way before sort of Google Ads really got going properly. In the days of when people could remember. Oh, you've done it! Thank you. Way before we sort of Google Ads got going, and it was all overture campaigns in those days. Everybody wanted to be on MSN and Yahoo. Basically, they were the big players. And then kind of from 2005 onwards, Google started to take a real grip, and everybody wanted to be on Google. So basically, that's my background. I'm still doing it today. Another 20 years' time, I might be good at it. It's forever changing. That's for sure.
Absolutely, it is indeed. And don't worry, I've heard of some of the results that Stuart gets. So yeah, we're in good hands today. Excellent. Jess, would you like to introduce yourself for those who don't know you?
Yes, so I'm Jess. I make businesses more scalable and become more profitable through increasing the customer retention. So I've actually got a 6-step brand loyalty process that I use that increases loyalty, which increases retention and then increases sales. So if you want to know more about that, let me know. I can send you a quick video. So that's me, Jess, and I'm a brand consultant.
Lovely. Thank you, Jess. Stephen, over to you.
And good morning, everybody. My name is Stephen Lerman from Chameleon BDS. I help people get appointments by making the phone calls they don't want to, they don't like to, or they don't have the time to. So that is what I do. I make appointments, I update CRMs, and I send out emails, and I get you those appointments.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stephen. And if anyone who doesn't know me yet, my name is Una Doyle. I'm a business strategist and coach. I love to help creative business owners to have fun to run, profitable businesses. And I can help any business to unlock 50K or more in only 50 minutes. You want to know how? DM me and I'll send you a video. Okay, so let's dive into today's topics, how to have better online conversions. And I think this is, with the whole iOS changes, for those of you who have been doing online ads, for instance, but I want this to be slightly broader than just ads, but I do want to talk about ads as well. There's been so many changes, like Stuart was saying, it's a constantly changing landscape, but I know there's been a big hit for a lot of people with the iOS changes. Can you tell us a bit more about that for people who don't know about it, Stuart?
Well, basically, it's privacy. And that's basically what it's all about. So the likes of Apple have got involved, and they're taking privacy more seriously in terms of, we all know it when we go on Facebook, all of a sudden we've got ads that are skewed and people are thinking, I did a search online yesterday for such and such a thing, and all of a sudden I'm getting bombarded by all these ads via my phone when I'm on Facebook, etc. So they're tightening up those rules. So for the advertiser, there are issues. It's not so much sort of Google ads. It's more for sort of social media and that side of things.
Okay, so how come it doesn't affect Google ads in the same way?
I've not had any issues with Google ads at the moment. I think it's just been basically the likes of sort of Amazon ads and things like that. Now, whether or not filtered through yet, I've no idea. But my clients have not had any issues with searches online.
Okay. Oh, okay. Interesting. I wonder if that because with Google ads, it's more search intent. In fact, let's just can you explain the difference between your typical social media ads and Google ads, because around that concept, because I think that's something people might not be aware of.
Well, basically with Google ads, you're in the market to buy because you're actually typing something into a search bar and you're looking for something. With a Facebook ad, basically it's a bit like newspaper advertising. So basically getting bombarded with adverts and what have you, but you're not necessarily in the market to buy. However, as soon as you sort of engage with that advert, then then Facebook says, yeah, they are interested in buying. So you get bombarded with more of those kind of ads when you're actually on the platform.
Okay, yeah, and it's that thing, we've all been there, scroll, scroll, scroll. Oh, what's that?
Yeah,
And then you realize it's something sponsored. So, and that's how we can tell the difference between a kind of organic post and something that is an ad. It'll have sponsored somewhere on it. So what can you talk us a bit about, where do you see, do you have any ideas in terms of the trends of what you see happening with online advertising over the coming months and years?
Well, it's where you need to be, basically. I mean, in terms of social media ads, there were probably where Google was about 10 to 15 years ago in terms of cost. So it's relatively cheap to do unless you're looking on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's more expensive. But in terms of Facebook ads, you can reach a reasonable amount of people for 15, 20 quid a day. Whereas on using Google ads, you've got to be spending a lot more to have that kind of reach. But it's a different kind of market. As I said to you before, with Facebook ads, it's more like traditional advertising in a way. You're buying a newspaper, but you're not in the market to buy. The adverts are there, and that's where that's how Facebook works. Really, you've got to be doing it repetitively to get into the minds of people. It's a bit like radio advertising and television advertising. It's about brand awareness. Google ads is, I want to buy a pair of socks today, and I'm typing it into Google, and it pops, your site selling socks. So it's more reactive to what you're actually looking for. You're in the process of spending, and that's why it's more expensive, basically, to advertise on Google than it would be to put an ad on Facebook. I think a mixture of the two, if you've got the budget, is great. It depends what you want to achieve. If you want to achieve, a large amount of followers and shares, gone are the days when you could just have a business page, have 1,000 followers, and you'd reach 1,000 followers. I think we all know that.
Yeah.
You've got to put some money.
Long gone.
Yeah, and there were glory days. People thought, great, crack this. In a couple of thousand followers, you can reach those people in no time at all. No, obviously, Facebook wants your money. It's its platform, and to reach those people, you've got to put some money behind it. Which is nothing, So it's a different kind of beast in terms of social media marketing. It's different to Google AdWords.
Interesting. We've actually just had a comment from Claire. Thanks, Claire. I used to find my Facebook leads were more flighty. There'd be no shows for consultations and convert less. The Google ads seem more likely to turn up and then convert.
Yes,
So,
I agree with that.
Yeah, interesting. We get a little bit of background, so I'm just going to ask if any of us aren't speaking, let's mute. But I just want to come to Stuart, to Stephen. Did I see you put your hand up? Did you want to ask something?
Yeah, I did. You were talking about Facebook ads. So can you explain to me, because I don't get this at all. So I'll give you an example. So I was Googling something on the internet a few months ago, and it was a beard oil product or whatever. And the next thing I know, all these ads started appearing on my Facebook feed. Is that the subliminal message?
It does. It picks up cookies and what have you, so they can appear. What I can say is that I've not really, because what we're doing with Google ads in particular is they don't necessarily need to follow you around in terms of, it can happen. People put cookies in there and they can follow you around. You're on Amazon is a classic, isn't it? You're shopping on Amazon and all of a sudden you've got all these ads popping up on Facebook trying to sell you the same thing from Amazon. So it can happen. But if you're on Google and you're clicking on an ad, the chances are, as the person said before, you're more likely to convert. When it's a sort of a Facebook ad, or you've been shopping on Amazon and what have you, or just browsing, that's when ads tend to follow you around, because they've come to the conclusion that you haven't spent any money yet, or you're just browsing. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Great. Thanks for that great question, Stephen. We got another question from Claire. Do you have any thoughts on Google Ads for remote businesses like coaching? I think it's a great question to ask. She's probably like myself, where we can coach anywhere. We've got clients around the world and up and down the country. And we don't have, like, when it comes to the local ads that, Google kind of seems to really like, we don't have a brick and mortar place. We have home offices, or even if we have an office like outside of the home, we're not necessarily seeing people in person, so that local ad doesn't come into place in the same way. So what would be your advice there on how to get better conversions?
Well, one of my clients for a number of years with a coaching academy based in Plymouth, and they did very well from Google ad campaigns. So I suggest it's ideal, to be honest. It worked very, very well for them. There's no reason. I've worked with life coaches in the past, and we've run Google Ads campaigns. I would think your conversion rates will be far superior to Facebook. Facebook is more, you really got to be in it for the long haul. And I say it's about brand and repetitiveness and getting in the heads of people. And that takes time, and you're building up a community as well, which takes time. It's just it's networking, basically, social networking. Ads, basically, you'll have a better chance of converting, and I would believe sort of if urgency is more important, then Google Ads are the way to go.
That's a really important criteria, I think. And I know I've dabbled in Facebook ads in the past, and I never managed to get them to work. And I've also. Pardon?
That's where I come in.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know you then.
Yeah.
But I really like that, and I think I think one of the things as well is, like, I always say to my clients when if they're kind of talking about doing ads, is that they've got to get some foundations in place. And I really believe that unless you have a lot of money to test stuff, that and you're still going to need to do some testing, but I think if you have your messaging down, you have a funnel down, a sales process down that works already organically, then you can then look to scale through ads in whatever way.
Yes.
You need to have enough of a budget to make that work. But I think what I'm hearing you say is that you could do a promotion for a limited time on Google to get some leads in, convert those, and you can turn them off in the meantime. Whereas with social media ads, it's more about, as you say, it's that constant drip.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah. You've really got to be in it for the long haul with Facebook. I mean, there are certain campaigns where it's all about shop now and buy now and what have you, but I'm looking for an e-bike at the moment, believe it or not. So I'm getting bombarded by e-bike campaigns, and sort of the criteria and privacy notices and what have you don't seem to be working quite the same, because I'm getting bombarded with those ads on Facebook at the moment. They follow me around, but they know that I've had a look at those, and I've read about it, and I've almost gone to the shopping cart and bought something as well. But I keep opting out. But in terms of Google Ads as well, what you've got to be careful with Google Ads, gone are the days really where you could just stick a couple of ads and wing it and get some leads in. It's basically, even then you've got to do a bit of testing. So I would suggest to people who are thinking about Google Ads and they want to go it alone is don't throw a lot of money at it initially. Just start small, get some data. See where people are coming from. The landing pages are really important. The pressure points on a site are really important. I mean, I've worked with sites in the past where I've sent 200 or 300 people a day via AdWords, and conversions are really, really poor because the site's not very good. So we have to work on the site as well in terms of landing pages are really important.
Can I just pause you there? Let's just explain what a landing page is, just in case anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, a landing page is when people click even in people. I've not been up long this morning. When people click on an ad, it takes them to a page, right? And that page is known as your landing page. It's where your visitors land initially. It's not necessarily a home page, because that could be quite a generic kind of, this is what we do. If I'm using the sock analogy again, if I'm buying socks, it takes me to the landing page that says, we sell socks, and here they are. So it cuts to the chase. And when it comes to good lads, that's really important. You've got to understand that people's attention span is in the seconds. And if you've paid for a click to a site, you've really got to cut to the chase and deliver within those seconds. Otherwise, the potential sale is done and they're off to another site.
Great, thank you. And this is often a great way to test all sorts of things. So sometimes I have clients looking to test a niche, and they can set up a landing page, and get some organic or paid traffic to that, or even just send it out to, existing contacts that they have and see what kind of response they get.
Well, Google call it A and B testing. So basically, you could have two landing pages. Basically.
Yeah, split testing. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you can split it, and then you can have landing page A, landing page B, start sending traffic to the and what have you, and you'd be very surprised by what you think will really work and doesn't, and then another page really does work, and think, wow, that's it's every industry is slightly different.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, actually, what would you see as some of the key distinctions between what works for conversions with service-based industries compared to product-based businesses?
Well, on a service, you're not necessarily selling something tangible online, are you? Because you're asking people to pick up the phone and ask more questions. With a product, you're actually selling something. People can click on a link and buy online. So the signs, the site's going to be designed in a particular way. It's more of an e-commerce site typically when people are buying things online, and you click on the socks, and there you are. If you're a manufacturer of socks, then obviously you want to distribute it, and that's where it's important to have your contact details in there, a bit of history, what makes you a great manufacturer of socks. Why I've picked socks this morning, I have no idea, but there you go. So they're offering different. I've actually got a pair of socks on. So they're offering different. It's a different kind of sell. So it's the design and the structure and the sort of pressure points are different.
Now, you mentioned that phrase earlier, pressure points. What are these pressure points you're talking about?
Pressure points, in terms of I always call them sort of you click on the certain parts of the site which entice you further on, and people call them funnels, don't they? You call them funnels before, and basically what you're doing is taking a client on a journey, potential client on a journey. So the pressure points for me could be the contact details, a telephone number, things of that nature. You'd be surprised. I was working on a site not so long ago where the conversion rates were low, but the contact details weren't on the landing page. You had to go to a contacts page within that to then fill out a form for somebody to come back to you. People will, some will do that, most won't. If you're on a mobile phone, you just want to click on a number. So you're asking, so people will literally read a sentence and then click on a telephone number to ask more details. So that pressure point for me is the telephone number, is the contact details. It's the buy now. It's the cut to the chase, basically, of what you're there on that site to do.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And one of the things I'm always looking for people to do on their websites is to have ways of actually capturing data and being able to build a longer term relationship with people. So
it could be a newsletter. Newsletters are perfect for it. So basically, if you want to build up a subscriber list, it's good to have sign up for a sort of monthly newsletter, which is a great way of potentially, when people buy something, you've got their email address, obviously got to ask them permission to, which is okay, we include on our newsletter for future promotions and etc. Because you can sell to them again.
Definitely. And I think a lot of the time, I think it depends on how much in demand a product or service is. I actually think a lot of the time a newsletter isn't enough, and you need to have something that is got some kind of downloadable, something that's really of value, something that's going to press their hot buttons, and this is where really knowing your audience, your prospective clients are really going to make a difference. So thank you for your nice comments, Claire. Glad you're finding it helpful. And yes, a lead magnet freebie is exactly what we're talking about here. So some kind of opt-in offer. Though I think these days that there are so many opt-in offers, like you've got to make sure that is like something that they can't leave the site without, that's if you really understand your clients and can tap into that. Jess, Stephen, any questions or thoughts on what Stuart has shared so far?
Yeah, I do. If you don't mind me going first, Stephen. I think you made some really good points about, the journey, having that landing page, and Una making sure they've got the foundations and all that stuff. I find that a lot of businesses that I speak to rush into ads and rush into paying for SEO and paying to be seen on Google and paying to be seen on Facebook. And there's a lot of work to be done before that. Like we've said, we've got to look at that journey. We've got to look at the message. As Una said, we've got to look at them pain points. What is it that people actually want? We can't just throw our brand out there. And is our brand compelling enough to get people to take action? So there's a lot of stuff that needs to go beforehand. And when I talk to businesses, if I'm not the right person for them, or if branding isn't the thing that they need to focus on, I do try and give them, the person that is. But quickly, for people that may be thinking, okay, yeah, great, ads sounds amazing, I need to do it. What sort of advice have you got for people to do before they commit to paying for ads or, actually rolling it out?
Well, it's a really good point, actually, because basically you've got, I'll look at some sites and straight away I think, well, it requires quite a bit of work. It depends on the market. It really, really does. I've worked with some really poorly designed websites that have done really well straight away on Google AdWords campaigns. The reason they do is because they tend to be sort of really niche engineering companies that if you're in the with very little competition, and if you're in the market to buy a particular widget for a machine, you'll buy it because that's the only company that's online selling it. And you'll pick up the phone and you'll put a lot of effort in because you need that widget. For us mere mortals, there's a lot of competition and you want to distinguish yourself in the marketplace and what have you. It requires a lot more work. And basically what I do is look at the competition that's out there, look at the kind of ad copy that they're using, and I've got some software that tells me what they're doing, and basically do a lot of competition analysis and what's working for them, and sort of look at some best practices in terms of what they need to be doing on their site as well. Some they'll be doing, most they won't. And I think, Jessica, what they tend to be, you're right what you were saying, they tend to be in a hurry, because they sort of, it's October and they want to hit the market in November or something like that. So it's all of a sudden becomes like a kind of a panic thing. You really need to spend a bit of time on the site initially, and we do an audit of the site. So we do look at what your competitors are doing, and basically, it's working for them. There's no reason why it can't be working for you. There's usually there's always a market. There's a market for whatever you're doing. It's just to make sure that the site is open for business. There's nothing worse than, some have auto attendants on sites. They annoy some people. They work very well for others. But it's the equivalent of having somebody walking into a shop really without anybody asking, would they like any help? And then they leave the shop and just close the door behind them and they don't make a purchase. And it's exactly the same analogy, really, why have they come into the shop and they just walk straight out? So those kind of things need to be looked at.
So how much time would you advise people to take to go through this process of the audit and the competitor analysis? And I mean, I understand the changes they may need to make might be minimal, or there might be something that would take a little while, but just for that preparation part to figure out what they need to do, if anything.
They could be very simple changes. They could be literally just the rewording, and the contact details need to be on every page. It depends on each individual site and what it is they're doing, whether it's a service or a product-based company. So it's different for all kinds. You can spend a couple of hours on one, and you can spend several days on another. And it could be that what we do initially is say, well, do you know what? Let's work on 2 to 3 landing pages. Let's get it working. Let's see ads as well nowadays. They and I said to you before, rather than throwing a fortune at it to start off with, I always start small. In the first month, it's all about the data and what kind of data I can get and look at, or whatever, and the kind of keywords that are working for them, and then sort of play around with it, and the landing page as well. And the thing is with ads, and it's a bit like organic as well. It can't stop. It's forever changing. Adapt it. It's what can work 3 months ago can stop working 3 months. It's you've got to constantly be on it, really.
Yeah, I think that measurement part is really important, and something that doesn't come naturally to a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly those of us who are more creatively minded and tend to be looking at the big picture to get into the data and the analytics. I know my kind of past experience in dabbling was just kind of like, oh, I can't look at all these numbers, it's too much, on an ongoing basis. So yeah, I think if you're like that, then do speak to someone like Stuart to get the right kind of help. Just in terms of like what numbers people ought to be looking at, and I know certainly I guess like from more of my clients, because they tend to be service based, they often would I think they tend to gravitate more towards the interrupt advertising rather than because people don't always know what they don't know. They don't always know what's going to help them necessarily. So I think that's why you get a lot more coaches and kind of more service-based businesses on kind of the social media side of it. And I've had conversations with some clients where they're running ads, and they are actually using Facebook ad specialists, and they weren't getting great conversions, and they were the ad specialist was blaming their funnel, and I was like, no, we know that funnel works because it's worked before, with organic traffic, and so and she was saying, well, I don't know, like they're saying the cost per click is really good, and this, that, and the other. And I said, yeah, but what are they optimizing the ads for? Like, are they optimizing for clicks, or are they optimizing for sales? Because sales is actually what you need to be, in my opinion, I was like, sales is what you need to be optimizing for, because you could have an ad that performs really well in terms of clicks, but it doesn't convert as well. So, like, what's your thoughts on what should people be looking at in terms of?
Do you know what? Basic is, and I've gone to clients and providing them a report we do, reports for this, reports for that, and what have you. And you can have all the analytics. You've got the Google Analytics and etc. We can talk conversion rates and landing pages and the time they've been on the page and things of that nature. And at the end of the day, who's picked up the phone and placed an order?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
it.
and I mean, with a lot of those clients, it's people that they're making an appointment, or they're buying a lower price product first, so they're kind of moving people through. But even with like, so for instance, with a lot of service-based companies, if they're having a low price, maybe they have an opt-in offer, and then they have a low-priced offer of some kind. But at the end of the day, what you want is people, buying your programs, for instance. So you've got to look at that. You've got to look at it as whole, don't you? It's
Yes.
the synergy. And I think while you do want to optimize bits within it, if you're optimizing this bit but in isolation, you're not looking at the impact on the end result that you want, then that's not a good thing. I think sometimes people can get a bit tunnel vision about, well, this bit's working, this bit's working, this bit's working, but why is it? And then they're kind of going, oh, well, it's not our fault if this bit isn't working. But they're not looking at the thing in the whole. I've got another question from Claire here. So would you recommend trying out the funnel on organic traffic first? I guess that probably depends. I mean, what are your thoughts, Stuart?
Well, but again, when we're doing sort of social media management, we have a piece of software, and the software tells us, what kind of organic posters work really, really well. And if you've got a funnel in there, you've put a funnel, basically a salesy post with a funnel attached to it. It'll tell us whether or not it's been quite successful. And if it's not been successful, and if it's not successful, obviously don't put any money behind it. But it's really good in terms of you've got a bit of insight in terms of if you want to put some money behind a particular post and a sales funnel, then you're going at it thinking, well, that's worked very well organically. There's no reason why it can't work even better with some money put behind it. So you're actually going in with a bit of insight.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely would say you want to know that however people get into the funnel, you definitely want to make sure that the funnel works, is what I would say. And then in how people arrive in the funnel, you can test it, you can test different things. But I guess there must be some differences. Like if you're taking something, like if you want to take something that worked well on Facebook as an organic post, but it was kind of getting, getting you good results, and then you wanted to make that into a Google ad, that would need to change, or would it? I mean,
I think it would have to change because the funnel in social media, basically it's the hook, and it's and it's you enticing somebody in, aren't you? You're taking somebody on a journey, and that person initially may not be that particularly interested, but they're thinking, oh, well, that's kind of okay, and there's an offer of a freebie and what have you, and it's taking you more on that journey. In the end, that you've got the details, and you might have them as a client owner in the end. But if it's a Google AdWord, I am looking for a life coach, a business coach. So do I really need to go through a journey? Basically, once I'm on the site, I want a business coach, so I haven't got the time to go through a bloody funnel. It's like, I just want you. So basically, you've got to be careful really of switching somebody off. But in social media, in advertising on social, different beast works really well.
Interesting. So one of the things that occurs to me, like if someone is searching for a business coach, then they're going to be looking probably at multiple coaches' websites, and if it's through an ad, those landing pages. So I think we do need to make sure that we are distinctive and different, and that we're really hitting the particular pain points that we know we can help with and provide credibility. So what kind of things do you recommend people have on their landing pages in these kinds of situations?
Well, for your particular market, it could be like we're helping. So you've got there's several different spheres that you're involved with. So let's pick on business coaching, for instance. So I type in, I want a business coach. So obviously your landing page is going to emphasize how you help businesses. There's testimonials on there and case studies and things like that. So it's, what have you done in the past? So there's got to be a big sell on that side of it. And how do I contact you and make that as easy as possible to it could be, I'm interested in tick, tick, tick. You tick those 3 boxes first and then send, and it comes to you. But the process in terms of, with a funnel where you reach this particular point, you're taken to this particular point, you're taken to that particular point before you don't necessarily have to do that with a
so it can be a lot shorter in terms of steps. And I think what you just said there, like we always want to make sure we have those the social proof and that credibility. So if you've had media appearances or if you have a book, whatever it is that gives you credibility, then the testimonials and case studies, we definitely need to make sure that we have those where we're looking for people to take an action, whether that's to book a call or to buy a product. So that we're moving on with that. So Claire's happy. She said that makes so much sense, and she has some clarity. So always clarity is always good, right? so that makes sense. Thank you. Great. Any other? Jessica, Stephen, any other questions or thoughts on what we've been talking about here today before we wrap up?
No, I just wanted to say, Stuart, I was going to ask you, how would somebody like me, that's not got a tangible product, advertise online? But you've just answered it when you mentioned with Una, like having a landing page with contact details on and testimonials and recommendations and stuff like that. It's very difficult for me. I often wonder when it comes to posting, on social media, how to make it glitzy, how to make it enticing. What would I do? I mean, it's all about the service that I provide. So really, it was just another part B question would be.
I think basically, because at the end of the day, what you're selling there, Stephen, is yourself, like Una is selling herself. So basically, it could be sort of an online video presenting yourself or whatever. It's basically you're selling your personality,
right?
So it's that's what distinguishes you from everybody else.
Yeah.
I'd go down that particular path.
Thank you, Stuart. Appreciate that.
Muted. I really like video. I think for online stuff, I think where now not everybody wants to do video, and for some people that might not be really in flow for them. But I often say, even to the more introverted types that don't necessarily want to be very visible, even just to have a video on a landing page. It's not that they necessarily have to do live videos like this or have loads of videos as part of their social media, but I think there's just something about having a connection to a person or people on your team that actually can make a big difference. And I think that's one of the biggest complaints I have if I'm looking to buy something. I will always go and look at the About Us and look at team and things like that. I want to get a feel for what's the culture of this company? Like, do I resonate with it? What's their story? I want to know those kinds of things. So I think we need to make sure that we're, like Jess always talking about, the connection, the emotional connection as well. Like, we want to make sure we're getting those things across. And I think video really allows you to do that. The number of times I've had people where I've never met them and I meet them at a networking event online or in person, and they're like, "Oh, hi," like they're talking to me like they know me, and I'm like, I have no idea who this person is. and then they kind of say, "Oh yeah, I watch your videos and whatever." I'm like, all right, okay. So yes, I think that definitely can be.
That's a really good point, Una, because obviously when you're doing a lot of social media and what have you, people do, by the time you go and meet them in person, when we're doing in-person things, they do feel as though they know you because you're posting on a regular basis, and it's a really important thing. So I would go along with that, Una, and Stephen, that'd be very good for what you do, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, luckily for me, I really enjoy it. So I think that helps. So, all right. So what we've talked about here today, we've had some great advice from Stuart. I highly recommend that you give him a shout. So we've talked about having landing pages. We've talked about buyer intent. So are you doing the kinds of ads where you're kind of interrupting people? They're scrolling and they see something, and you attract their attention, and then they go into that perhaps a longer journey of a full funnel with that? Or is it something that they are actually searching for, where that search intent, that intent to buy is there, and then that needs to be handled differently, and that typically would be more Google ads than the social media ads for that kind of situation. We talked about making sure that you have credibility. We talked about making sure that those pressure points are there, like what is it that the person is going to want to do next, and are you providing that information? And have I forgotten anything?
No. On mute. No, mute. I thought I was muted.
No, we can hear you.
That's pretty much everything covered.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, I think some great advice there. So, and thank you, Claire, for the questions that you asked us as well. I think that brought up some great points. Thank you for joining us again, Stuart. Great to have you here. And so, yeah, if you want to, make sure that you are growing your business and you're ready to scale, if you're not sure if you're ready to scale, give me a shout. I'll be happy to talk with you. If you might go, oh, ads aren't the way for me, I'll contact Stephen and have him make appointments for me instead. Or maybe you're like, actually, I'm not ready for ads because I need to review my brand. Get in touch with Jessica. We're all here. Reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you. Okay, that's us for today. Thank you, Jess, Stephen, and Stuart for joining me here today. We will see you all very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh, thanks, Claire. You're welcome.